I call the May 19th, 2015 Saline County Commission and Public Forum and Meeting to order. Will everyone please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Commissioner Price will be acting clerk today. Will you please call the roll?
Mr. Shadwick.
Here.
Mr. Giles.
Here.
Mr. Price is here. Mrs. Larson.
Here.
And Mr. Smith.
Here.
All right.
First on the agenda is the public forum, and it's always a time where citizens may speak on any issue not on the current agenda and is limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone that would like to come forward at this time?
Karen Shade, 111 Wisconsin. I always appreciate hearing the monthly department head updates. I think it provides a lot of valuable information. It's also budget season, and I just wanted to request that perhaps that time could be allocated to talk about program spending as it was in 2014, how they're doing in 2015, and if there's any planned changes for 2016, it would give the public a chance to kind of watch and observe and be part of the process.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And I think we're going to see some changes this year because of the voting on the jail. We haven't kept up the jail, so we've got some work to do over there, and we've got a lot of requests on our budget. And that budget meeting, we're going to do that maybe next Wednesday afternoon again, or 2 weeks from Wednesday maybe.
Next Tuesday.
Or Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday. Yeah. And that'll be on the forum, and we welcome the public. There really should be public interest and be there to know what's going on.
It was an interesting 4 hours.
And I think our reporter did a pretty good job of reporting on that last time. So there was a lot said, and I'm really amazed at the things that, it's going to be a tough year on the budget, isn't it, Jim?
Yep.
Is there any, I'm sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
so anyway, we sure aren't trying to hide anything. We don't have a clue where we're at yet ourselves, do we, Rita? You know?
Not yet.
Not yet. But we're working hard on it, and we're going to, as a commissioner, I think we're all trying to keep the taxes down. We're working hard at it, so.
Okay.
Norman Mantle, West Pleasant Hill Road. I brought up the issue last week about your metal detectors. How come we don't have more metal detectors up on the 3rd floor? We're supposed to have them at each entrance. You're restricting our access to the district clerk. But if somebody else in another office was to get injured and you don't have a metal detector there, what about liability?
All right, thank you. I think we do have some concerns on the 3rd floor. And we'll be addressing those during budget season. Thank you. Anybody else at this time? Moving on, we'll go to regular business. Item number 1.
All right. Proclamation declaring May 1st as Red Nose Day. And who do we have here represent? There's that red nose. Give us May 20. Oh, what did I say?
That's fine.
Oh, boy. And would you give us your name and address, please?
Yes, Amanda Michaelis. Wait, there we go. Amanda Michaelis, 202 Millview. And I'm with the Saline Area United Way, and I will read the proclamation if you'd like me to.
Please.
Whereas Red Nose Day was established as a national day of comic relief and giving for poverty alleviation in children on the 21st of May. And whereas Red Nose Day is a celebration of philanthropy and volunteerism where people give whatever they're able to give. And whereas Red Nose Day is a day where citizens work together to share commitments, laugh in support of a cause, build a stronger community, and think about other people. And whereas it's fitting and proper on Red Nose Day and on every day to recognize the tremendous impact of philanthropy, volunteerism, and community service in the city of Salina and in Saline County. And whereas Red Nose Day is an opportunity to encourage citizens to serve others throughout the year. Now therefore be it resolved by the County Commission of Saline County who hereby proclaim that May 21st, 2015 designated as Red Nose Day in Saline County, and encourage all citizens to join together to give back to the community in any way that is personally meaningful.
Very good. Do you have any other events going on this week?
Not any particular events here in Salina. There is a 3-hour event on NBC that you can watch. They'll have musicians, actors, all that kind of thing, Thursday from 7 to 10. And then you can buy a red nose from us or Long MacArthur, but I have some for you guys. And Long MacArthur's also donating to the Salina Area United Way $1 for each selfie that people take with their red nose on. So, and we are, United Way is one of 10 national organizations that's benefiting from Red Nose Day, and all those organizations work in causes to alleviate children's poverty. So,
Very good.
so we'd like,
I foresee a photo op here.
I'm hoping that
You get the whole.
slide.
I think commissioners should wear them all day on the 21st.
Absolutely. I do too. I like that.
What's some assembly required here?
Well, yeah, there you go.
I see.
It's just easier if you, I was, okay, cut them open first because they're kind of hard to fill.
Are we taking a picture with you, Amanda?
Will you?
Sure.
Okay.
Who's
Well, you
got
spoke
her-
for the group. I hope everybody.
Uh-oh,
who's got
God.
her proclamation? Who has
Down
the
here.
That's right here.
Dave,
What does the
you
mirror look like?
We signed the wrong place.
I did, I messed
We
up.
did.
I did.
That's
I think Rita should have one of these. You got an extra one?
quickly.
Quickly before anybody gets. There you go.
All right, everybody.
Yay.
Thank you.
I think you ought to send us a picture of that so we can put it on the wall upstairs.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll forward it to you. No worries.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, I can hear the comments now.
Someplace public.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.
I thought red-nosed people drank a lot.
I thought it was a
I think this is actually an action item, so if we can,
Mr. Chairman, I move we declare May 21st as Red Nose Day in Saline County.
I second that.
all those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes 5-0. Item number 2.
All right. RFA number 152-15 KDHE TBQT contracts. And Joyce Shoemaker will be from Nursing Clinic Coordinator. Will comment on it.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners. Okay, the request for action is to accept the $2,500 for the starting July 1 of 2015 through June 30th of 2016, and this $2,500 is to help manage the TB clients that may reside in Saline County. KDHE provides the funding to the Saline County Health Department for the purpose of financing the expenses. This may be for clients who are unable to pay for the services. This helps get those clients in that may have active TB or latent TB to gets them in for care, and this helps with the nursing care and the assessments and visits. It could help with lab, x-rays, that type of thing. And then the second contract is to accept the contract where we can send blood to KDHE to do the quantiferin test for tuberculosis, and to be a part of that. And that contract would run the same time from July 1 of 2015, July 1 through June 30th of 2016. And that is because KDHE, if we accept that contract, they will charge us just $47 for that blood test, as opposed to a private lab that we're able to send it to charges $64.20 per blood test. So that is a savings for our clients. So we ask that the commissioners accept both of the grants, and I have the grants right here.
All right. Questions to staff?
The one grant is for $2,500.
Yes,
I'm going to
yes.
get this in the minutes, and the other was for what amount?
The other one can be up to, not to exceed $2,500, but it's
Okay.
basically that KDHE will run
Right.
the blood samples that we send to them at $47 per test, up to $2,500 for the year, for the
Not-
grant year.
Not 20,000?
No, the second one
It says,
Oh, excuse me.
first one is
Excuse me,
2,500.
not to, correct, thank you, Commissioner Larson.
Not
Not
to-
to exceed $20,000
Okay.
for the lab tests, yes. And the first one for the expenses to help the clients with their doctor care and their assessments and their labs and their x-rays. That one is not to exceed $2,500.
right.
Okay.
And how many do you expect, or not to expect, but do you do usually in a year's time?
Okay, let me defer that to Maria Schultes. She is our clinic nurse who manages that program.
Thank you.
And
Good morning. Do you need my name? Or-
Please, yeah.
Okay,
please.
Maria Schultes.
Okay.
Last year, we did 29 of the IGRA blood tests. And so we do a lot of them for like college students. We can do them for anybody that is in need of them, and we evaluate that. Not everybody gets a blood test, so it depends on their need.
And I believe I asked last week, you didn't do the jail, right? You
No.
didn't do that?
no,
Okay.
we do not do the jail.
Okay.
Further questions? Thank you.
Are those two, one RFA is 152.15? Is there another RFA for the other one, or are they just both in one
They're-
RFA?
They're both in the same RFA, Commissioner.
I just want to have that straight for Dawn.
Is there any public comment on this? Bring it back to the commission for action.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve both contracts as described with KDHE and our health department. The one contract not to exceed $2,500, with that second contract not to exceed over $20,000, with this beginning July 1st, 2015 through June 30th of 2016.
I second that.
There's a motion, a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Item number 3. You want me to read it? I can.
No, I'll get it. I'm just
Okay.
trying to keep caught up here.
I'm not. We're no hurry.
RFA number 153-15, administrative specialist position. Comments by Annie Grievous. Is she in the house? Where's Annie?
Oh, we-
Community Corrections Director. No, it's going to be Rosie Walters.
Walter.
Yes, okay, I should know that.
Okay, Community Corrections is requesting a new position for our office, an administrative specialist. We submitted a form to Archer, filled it out for the job description and duties and such, and that was returned at a level 12 under the county pay scale. We currently have 3 support staff, 2 office techs and myself, grant and budget specialist. So in my time of being there, we have grown in our staff from probably 8 when I started to, I think we're at 26 right now. So with that, the need of support staff has greatly increased. So we are asking for this new position and possibly in the near future, hiring another office tech.
And the budget impact, as I notice here, it says funding will come from adult and juvenile grants. Is
Correct.
that an ongoing grant, or is it a
Yes.
one-time grant? Or?
No, it's our main funding.
Okay.
And I will tell you too that we also try to offset some of that with SUR. It's a retirement program for people that receive Social Security benefits. So we do currently have somebody in our office that helps out in that way too.
Very good. Questions of Rosie? Is there any public comment?
And the.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead,
The
Commissioner.
funding grant comes from state?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Adult and juvenile under the Kansas Department of Corrections.
All right. Further questions? Public comment?
Yeah, Ray Ruscat, 235 Santa Fe. I've been looking over this RFA, and it says a pay grade of 12. I've never heard a number. How much money is that?
I think, well, I'd have to look at the county pay scale to know that for sure what it is. Currently, we have 2 at 9, so this is a little bit higher. I think it starts at, and don't quote me, maybe at $10 or so
$10 per hour.
an hour.
If this is administrative, it's not contractual?
We don't have any contractual positions. Those are grant-funded positions.
Now, does, I still haven't got the definitive answer. How much money is it? That's what I want to know. Now, do the commissioners know?
I've got a handbook that I can look it up upstairs.
Well, how come you didn't look it up before?
Well, I guess I don't, I know what a lot of people make throughout the county.
Well, the
And,
public doesn't
and
know
I
what a
personally-
grade level,
no.
grade 12 is, and I don't know what
Well,
it is.
that would've been a good question before we came down here. I could've looked it up for you.
Well,
I'll be glad to look it up when we get upstairs or read it. Maybe we can find out.
I would
and
say
give
that
it
we
to him.
don't need to be,
Yeah.
approving anything if we don't know how much it's gonna cost.
If I'm not mistaken, I think last week when Annie came and spoke to us, I think she mentioned it last week. She
didn't
did
know.
mention that she had the money, and I'm trying to remember what she said when we were upstairs, and I thought she said it was going to be around the $10 to $12 mark, is I believe what that pay grade is. I'm almost positive. Of course, I don't, we take minutes of what happened upstairs, but I don't know.
Well, I was at that meeting. I didn't hear it.
Yeah, I remember Annie coming and saying, when we asked about the funding right away, she said she had it in the adult and juvenile grants. And it was just very brief. It was very short. If you recall, she wasn't there for very long.
Any other concerns, Ray?
Yes. I'm assuming that this position is gonna be an additional, cost or contribution of capers to this person. And so I would like to know the actual total amount that this position is gonna cost. And here, just not more than an hour ago, we're up at the study session upstairs, and we're talking about health department and hiring freezes. Why aren't we talking about hiring freezes for community corrections? Why are they the exception? I mean, even though it's a state grant, it's still the people's money.
Agreed.
And so, I would recommend that you follow through with consistency and do the same thing you're talking about with the health department.
All right. Very good, thank you.
And I'm a little worried about this millions and millions of dollars the state has to come up with in a few days. And maybe we should think about that, where we can cut places instead of just spending money just because the state says they have it when they don't even have it to give to us. And they're going to put it on the taxpayer, maybe the property owners on acreage. And so, there's a lot more there than just because the state says they're going to give us some money. And, well, if they don't have it, how can they give it to us, So,
Well, that's true. If the state's budget is out of whack right now, and then the state's giving the county money that they don't even have, what's wrong with that picture?
well, and I think that's why we're talking about a freeze instead of, we have had an application for more help last week in the health department. We need to combine it, and not only in that department, but we've had freezes, Rita, in the whole county, haven't we? For basically, we're kind of been in a freeze anyway,
Well,
haven't we?
we froze during the recession, yes.
But did we ever take that freeze off?
Yes, you kind of did.
Kind of did.
Yeah.
But we
I mean,
haven't
but
we
you
haven't
still
gone
have
crazy
to
hiring.
approve-
We've still cut. We haven't.
You still have to approve every
Yeah.
position.
I mean, we've still been cutting all along.
We approve anything on that.
A question, if it's $10 an hour, that's like 21,000 a year, rough numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Do we then pay the employee benefits on top of that? Is that on us, or?
No, it comes out of all of our grant funding.
So this position will cost the county nothing?
Nothing.
It all comes from the state?
No, and I will say, we have tried to offset, like I said earlier, with different programs that are no cost to us or the county, the SUR program. But there is a huge need within our office.
Okay. Further?
Since you don't know the actual cost, I would recommend that you do not approve this.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
I believe that as a county commissioner, I think we're on step 13, and it's about $13 an hour. So it probably is $11 to $12 an hour. I'm thinking it's a little more than 10, but I've got kind of a pretty good idea. But I'm not going to say something when I don't. If you let me show you in the book what it is, I'll show you exact amount, but I'm not going to round it off and say I think it's this.
Well, the only thing I wanted to comment on when you were comparing this to what just happened upstairs with, when we were speaking about the health department, they are two totally different departments and they have two totally different budgets. And what Annie has presented to us before in the past, I really feel she's very frugal, and if she did not have the funding for it and her budget looks a little bit different than what the health department looks like, I have no problem going with her judgment when she feels that her expenditures are in line and the revenue is in line, and she has got the money to offset new employment.
Thank you for that comment. But John, you should have known the answer to this question before.
I can't remember everybody's wage in this county, Ray.
Well, you just
We
said
got-
you did. You make
I've got a pretty good
assumption.
idea of what people make in this county, but I can't tell you the exact dollar.
Okay, well,
You know.
if you want to back,
There's only one man per
flow
face.
back to that comment, go right ahead. Thank you.
All right, any further public comment?
I'm not sure my grade, to be honest. I'm probably wrong on that. I don't have that stuff memorized. I just know I'm lucky to still getting paid right now, so.
Did anyone ask you what pay grade 12 was previously?
Did anybody ask me?
Yes.
Did you ask me?
Did anybody ask you?
I don't recall. I really don't.
Okay.
I didn't.
Further public comment?
I'm going to agree with John. The state's, Tom Ricks, 4500 West Schilling Road, I'm sorry. State, I saw in the news last night, $409 million down. They're trying to figure out, it's costing us, you and I again, $43,000 a day for them to figure out where we're going to get $409 million. And Annie always has these grants. They're always coming out of taxpayers' money. When is it going to stop? I guarantee you, if she keeps increasing everything, we could have 50 people over there. We could have 100 people over there, because there's lots of lawbreakers. And there's always a good program. The health department always has good programs. All of them are good. But how much can we afford as taxpayers? How much can we afford? How much of these good deals can we go for? And, you know, they sell a car down here, take $7,000 off. It's a good deal, but how many new Ford cars we have in our driveway just because it's a good deal? And I think we have to look at it like that. Just like you say, this is a business. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Further public comment? I'll bring it back to the commission for further discussion or action.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the request for a new position of administrative specialist at a county pay grade of 12, as recommended by the county corrections staff, community corrections staff.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? 5-0, passes 5-0. Item number 4.
Thank you.
All right. Don's got a pretty busy job, you know it? Huh? RFA 154-15, Planning and Zoning Board and Board of Zoning Appeals, term limits. And we have David Neal, here's the director.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
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 As you'll recall, the Commission had asked for some term limit regulations. We've run that through the process. It went through the Planning Commission for a public hearing. I should start out, the term limits were set for 2 3-year term limits, and then anybody serving on the board would take a 1-year break before repeatedly serving on that same board. They would be able to serve simultaneously on, for instance, the Planning Commission and maybe the Economic Development Council or one of our other boards.
Sure.
Whatever term limits apply to those other boards are completely separate from these boards. And after the Planning Commission hearing, the Planning Commission had a lot of good discussion. There was no public present at the meeting, but a lot of good discussion with the Planning Commissioners. The final vote was 5-1 with 1 abstaining. The recommendation was to deny term limits. For the County Commission action, if you would like to agree with the Planning Commission recommendation and deny the term limits, it would take a majority vote of the board, which is 3 votes. If you would like to overturn the Planning Commission recommendation and approve term limits, it would take a unanimous vote, which is all 5 votes on the board. The commission can also return the discussion to the Planning Commission. You would have to point out specific topics of what you would like them to discuss, or you can always continue or table the discussion with a majority vote. The staff recommendation, it follows the Planning Commission that we would recommend not having term limits based on the need for volunteers and the difficulty getting volunteers for boards, as well as getting the experience on the boards. The budget impact, code changes have very minimal budget impact. It's a one-time publication cost. The highest I've seen on publication cost is a little over $800. And with that, I have the resolution if you'd like me to read it, or I can read the codes or any questions.
Could you, you have 9 that are possible, you have 8 on the board right now, is that correct?
There's 9 on the board today.
9, okay.
Correct. At the
So-
time, there were 2 absent. One
2
was out of
absent.
state, the other was injured.
So we had could we have the ones that voted yes for it? Could you tell us which ones voted yes, the 5?
Mr. Mike Crow is the one person that had voted yes.
Okay, and how many voted, who's the ones that voted no?
Let me go down my list real quick for you. For no, it was Dwayne Flaherty, Mike Wilson, Leslie Barrett, Deborah Bloomquist, and Robert Vidrickson. Brett Ferguson and Ken Stromberg were absent that day.
Bloomquist, and who was the last one?
Robert Vidrickson. And Tom Rickstrude had abstained from voting.
And those two are new to the board, is that correct?
So I don't know how they would know, since they just got appointed, if we hadn't have brought this up, they probably wouldn't even been appointed. And I don't, when you're new to a board, it's kind of hard to know why we brought up these ideas. And I'm still for the 3-year, 2-year term, 2 years, 3 years, or 2-time, 3 years, and then lay off a year. That's not asking very much. And personally, if some of these don't like it, we don't have to reappoint them next time.
Correct.
So if we don't do that, it's not going to be my recommendation that they even get reappointed, because it sounds like they just want to hog the board and don't ever want to.
If I can ask, what was the reasoning for?
The reasoning varies. A lot of the discussion was, and I'm going to put this generally as a philosophical, are term limits appropriate for a volunteer board or not? People have different feelings personally depending on their political viewpoints. Some of the discussion that came up was maintaining the experience on the board. Some of the discussion was, as far as getting the volunteer base, we have a limited draw, trying to keep the balance of majority county volunteers. In some cases, it was they are a volunteer board. At any time, the county commission can ask for somebody to resign and vote on that. So that acts, in effect, as a term limit based on your own control.
Well, I've always had a couple points. The argument that it takes a long time to become experienced, I think it really underestimates the intelligence of our community. I think people can pick that up pretty quickly. Second of all, about hurting application, having a hard time finding people, I think it's just the opposite. I think a lot of people do not apply in this community because they feel that there's a system set up to deny them. I'm not well known in this community. This guy's been on there for 12 years, and so they don't apply. So I respectfully disagree with this volunteer board that I think does a great job. But on their 2 points that they make, I just don't think they're correct.
So as it stands right now, they have the capability of 6 years before they have to step down 1 year and can reapply.
That's the code that's being recommended.
Okay. I echo those sentiments exactly. When you tend to have the same people on for a long time, I think that's the mindset that I'm never going to get on because I'm not part of I don't want to say the good old boys club, but for lack of a better term, the system. So I too I think this is great work that they did. I value their opinion and their suggestions. And if this doesn't work in the future, another
1 year they can come back.
another commission board can relook at this or revisit this and change it. But for
Correct.
now, I'm happy with this.
I'd like to hear yours, Jim.
Well, it's kind of like I think that it's all right to have a change. I'll be honest with you that change don't have any chance of growth unless you do have a change once in a while. You know, you get somebody in there too long. I just like it myself. Like you say, the good old boys, like the three clowns.
The
There we go.
It's us.
Can we hear from Dave too, so we kind of have
Well, when this was discussed earlier, I thought that three-year terms was the appropriate figure, and I still do, quite frankly, and I'm going to vote against this motion to make it 2 3-year terms.
Isn't that what we
Because you
did?
prefer
Oh,
the 3 2-year.
I think I believe in term limits. I agree with the concept, but I think 6 years is not as long as is appropriate in this case, and 9 years would be better.
well, that's a long time, 9 years.
But that's
I've
not
been
on
a
the agenda
commissioner
there,
for
though, is
2.5 years, and I'm just, when is it gonna end?
No, you can't.
I mean,
So
honestly,
if we deny it,
2.5 years as a commissioner is a long time. 4 years is a terrible long time. It really is. It's a long, the days drag on.
I'm laughing with you.
Well, and, you know,
Well, but they can always resign if they're
well,
tired.
well, it's not
And they
that.
do.
It's if you take on a job, you take on a job, you know. And, but if you give the opportunity would we want to change it to 6 years as a commissioner? Would we want to make a change like that? I don't think so. And 6 years maybe we should have 2-year terms. It would be more my suggestion than, so I guess we're at a standstill because and that's another thing we need to look at. A supermajority vote should be 4 out of 5. And we're going to have to get a whatever it takes to write that up. A supermajority vote is 80%. That's 4 out of 5. When it was three, it was 3 out of 3 because you only hit 66. I think it's 75%. But anyway, we need to get our supermajority vote straightened out, and then we can. So I'd make a motion that we table this until we get that straightened out, and then we can move on with it. In other words, let's just table it for now. That what we're going to do because we're already saying we're not going to vote on it. And I don't.
It's going to be denied. You
A
mean?
supermajority vote. We've talked about.
I
We
thought
need
you
to
needed
get-
5. Am I correct, David?
It takes
Correct.
5
The
votes.
way the state statutes dictate a 2/3 vote for overturning a planning commission decision, which comes out to 66%, which in your case would be 4 out of 5 members of the board to reach that percentage. The county codes dictate a unanimous vote, and that's based on when we had 3 commissioners,
Right.
2/3 of 3 people.
That's why.
The intent of the state law is to have more than just a majority vote, and 2/3 of 3 people is still a majority vote. So the county had gone to unanimous at that point.
So supermajority is 66%.
Depends, I mean, if
yeah,
you're
I
talking
think, yeah.
supermajority Congress, it's
But
different.
anyway, a supermajority would, we would take 4 votes instead of 3.
Correct.
But our county, because we only had 3 commissioners, we haven't changed that to get the supermajority vote where it needs to be. So I think we need to look at that, then we can bring this back and take a vote on it.
Well, because if we vote the way we're thinking this is going to go today, it's not going to go anywhere. Right.
It's
So
not.
Let's get our
Let's
policies and
table it.
everything straightened out that should be straightened out. We've only changed how many months? 4 months? 5 months?
You had
Dave,
brought
is that
this
a
up too,
code?
and I had
It's a
forgotten
code, isn't
about
it?
that. You had brought it
Correct,
up.
the unanimous
Yeah,
vote.
so
we
you'd
need to
have to
get that
change your
done.
code.
Correct.
It needs to be changed. That was one of our first.
So
What is
my
the-
motion is let's table this until we get our supermajority vote in the county fixed.
That's a motion.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. I'll open up more to commission discussion.
Dave, how difficult is it to change that code?
It's the same process. We would go through basically just changing the word unanimous to 2/3, and then we go to the planning commission for a public hearing, and it comes to the county commission for a vote. I will have to point out that at that point, the law does not change until you vote on it, so it would require unanimous vote or majority, whichever way. We don't get to enact that law until that vote has happened and is published in the paper.
We're not talking about your change, we're talking about our policy changes.
That's a policy change.
The two-thirds vote.
I
To go from-
don't think it's even 2/3, I think it's 75%.
Is it a code within your department, or is it a code for the?
State.
The code is in the zoning code.
It's a zoning.
No.
Yeah.
There's,
But I'm talking about our supermajority vote. And I'll be honest with you, if they're gonna fight over a 4 to 5 vote, we've got a problem with the group down there, and maybe we just should eliminate the whole zoning board and start over. I'm kind of sick of this crybaby whining stuff, and it's just been going on ever since that new zoning code that came up. We voted that down, 3 people. I'm sure they're gonna want to come back and do that. And I'm tired of the bickering. Let's get on with our county, and we've got you pretty busy now with a little extra job. I don't see you walking up and down the halls as much as you were, and I'm happy with that. So let's just get this thing, let's get to work and get our county in top shape.
A little point of clarification for me. The supermajority, does it only apply to things that come out of your department, or is it?
correct. The code is in the zoning code and requires a unanimous, our code, as far as the county, it is a unanimous vote to overturn a planning commission decision.
Right.
And the county had done that because of a sand and gravel pit that was done, this was years ago. And at the time, we had 3 commissioners. It made sense.
But it doesn't make sense now.
Now that we're at 5 commissioners, it changes things. And what I would probably recommend is to follow the state regulations, which is the lowest that you can go is a 2/3 vote, which in the case of a 5-person commission would be a 4-person vote.
And that's what you are going to have to change,
Correct.
the language.
You need to bring that up with your people and see if you want to change that or
Correct.
not.
I have to take it to the planning
Yeah.
commission, they
Right.
make the
So, okay,
recommendation,
well-
it comes to you to vote on.
So I just recommend that we table this and let
Yeah,
you
we've
take
got-
it to your
We have a
commission.
motion and a second.
We have a motion and a second, and I would like to open this up to public comment.
Ray Ruska, 235 North Santa Fe. I do agree with the concept that John just pointed out about the unanimous and the majority. And of course, to make a change here, what is required, as far as Dave is concerned, is to come up with a text amendment to change the code. And that requires some legwork to do that. And John's comment about disbanding the planning and zoning because there's disruption and they're not cooperating or they want their own way, that right there tells you there's some issue concerning term limits. And so the issue should be addressed appropriately, you know, through that process. And I hope I said that right, Dave, is thing.
Well, as far as talking about reappointing planning commissioners, that's a whole different topic.
Yeah, right,
But
but
as
the
far
text
as-
amendment to change it is what I was
Correct.
making.
I start a text amendment because the commission has, that's the direction I'm getting it at this point from the commission. And we would go through that process.
There's a motion and a second to table it, and then I think we have a little discussion about where to go from here.
Correct.
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
Norman Mantle, West Pleasant Hill Road. Applied for a job once. Man asked me, you got any experience? I says, no. Well, we can't hire you. I says, well, how am I going to get any experience if you don't put new people on?
Thank you. Further public comment? Bring it back to the commission. We do have a motion and we do have a second, and I will be in favor of the tabling because the supermajority thing has been brought up by Commissioner before, and I agreed with it back then, and just frankly, I forgot about it. So, you know, again, I'm for favor. I spoke about what I thought about term limits, but I'm comfortable with tabling it too. So there is a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That does pass 5-0. Again, as a point of clarification for Mr. Neal, I'm assuming then the direction of this commission, unless I hear otherwise, is to come back with some sort of text on the statute.
Correct.
maybe looking at what the state does as a kind of a,
That's the guideline that I would use, is the
instead of
states.
reinventing the wheel, just
Yeah,
kind of
just
look and
go
see
with the
what's
states.
out there?
Yeah, and we're just trying to get it
So we,
procedure.
you okay
right,
to
too.
proceed?
Yep,
Okay.
I will have that filed. My guess is it would be a July public hearing, but don't quote me on that because I have to look at my application deadlines, and it might go into August, I'm not sure.
Very good. Okay. Thank you. Item number 5.
All right.
You're not done, John.
County Appraiser Monthly Update, Cheryl Sammons.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Commissioners.
Morning.
Uh-oh. How do I go back, Kevin? Oh, there we go. Boy, I love technology. I truly do. I have for you a simplified phase delineation chart of what our office does, and I started with valuation notices that go out every year in March 1st. It's followed by appeals. Shortly after the appeals conclude, we're doing several things. We have people already out in the field doing recollect. We're also doing sales verification, and we get sales every month of properties from the Register of Deeds office, and we're preparing to certify values to the county clerk. As far as where we are in our course, I thought it might be interesting for you to take a look at where we are in the county overall phases of the tax calendar. And you can see the first 4 items here have to do with the appraiser's office. We appraise the property as of January 1. Of course, we don't get it all done on that specific date. We begin earlier and finish after. We set the notices, send them out, the hearings, and we prepare to certify to the county clerk. You're probably pretty familiar with this part of the phase, and that's where all the governing entities certify their budgets to the county clerk. That's in the process now, and you can see that deadline is August 25th. November 1st, the county clerk certifies the tax roll to the treasurer, and then all the information, abstract of value, levy, and tax to the director of PVD, so that the tax statements can be sent out by December 15th. So this is just a full circle of where we are, and this is the appraiser's part of it right here. We have in our office 14 employees, and we are responsible for locating, identifying, and appraising all property in Saline County. The education is provided by PVD and IAAO, and they offer opportunities to build the skill set required for developing and determining fair market values. Education is ongoing and necessary for all appraisal staff. I might point out that in order to be your county appraiser, there are certain classes that have to be taken and experiences met in order to earn the RMA designation and to pass the county appraiser eligibility exam. In addition to that, we have classes that are necessary for all appraisers to take so that they can come up to speed and know as much as possible about appraisal information. Now, of course, this changes all the time, what with legislation or new directives from PVD. It includes personal property and property transfer changes, lots of analysis. So I do want to tell you that we had 3 clerical staff take a Kansas property tax law last month, and we had 3 appraisers take Orion land valuation, and they'll be taking recollect procedures later this year. This is ongoing. I wanted to give you a final on the informal hearings this year. We had a 69% of them changed. That's out of 321 hearings. And I thought you might like to look at it by the classes of property as well. And as you might expect, there were more hearings on residential properties than other types of properties, with commercial coming in second at 21%. When we look at these properties here, they're actually on vacant land. We had 14 hearings, on farms 11 hearings, and on ag only 2 hearings. Just for your information, and some of that information's in your packet. When we look at hearings by location, as you would expect, the majority are in Salina, about 80%, 16% of them in the rural, and some of the small incorporated towns then make up the other 5%. And when we say rural, that includes the unincorporated areas of the county. We had 4 small claims hearings in May. And interestingly enough, one of those hearings concerned a piece of legislation that was put into effect July 1 of 2014. And part of that legislation reads that the value shall be rolled for 2 years following the taxable year that the valuation for real property has been reduced. Gee, it sounds a little bit, you know, sometimes these things are hard to construe the meaning of. What's happening now is we had a 2013 payment under protest that went to small claims. And the owner feels that the property should have been rolled for 15. We do not construe the law in that manner, and this is a matter of law. This is not an appraisal valuation. This was the basis of their hearing. It went to small claims last week. And I anticipate, since it is a matter of law, that small claims will pass it on to the Board of Tax Appeals. Now, there are several counties in the state that are waiting for this legislation to be better defined. And we're not the only ones. It has the potential to go to district court, which is an option for the taxpayer now, to take it from the Board of Tax Appeals to district court. I don't have a crystal ball, but eventually one of these cases will go to district court and for clarification as to when it takes effect. PVD recommends that the 2015 values, anything that happened after July 1, any hearing that was held, the value would be rolled for 2 years. The attorney for PVD looks at it a little more stringently, as it wouldn't take effect until the 2015 valuation year. So, as you see, there's differences of opinion even at the state level. When it goes, or I'll keep you informed of this. I just don't know how it's going to play out. And again, our job is to discover, list, and value, and our people out in the field are finding that now. They're finding a few changes out in the rural areas, and I do want to tell you that with the vests that they're wearing and the publications in the paper of our location as well as on the website, many times they're greeted with, "Oh, we've been expecting you." So that seems to be going pretty well. And that's all I have for you today. If you have questions.
Very good. Questions today?
Put that slide up about the statute again.
Yes.
14.
Uh-oh.
While we're doing that, I think it's interesting that 69% of the time the valuations have been changed under protest. Is that how I read that?
That's correct. And the
I think
vast,
that, you know, the public always, why protest? They're never going to do anything, so, you know.
that just isn't the case.
Well, I know, and that's why these things are helpful, and
Yeah.
I appreciate that, because that helps us when people stop us on the street, too.
That's right, and the informal hearing is just that. It's a good time to sit down and both sides talk about their opinion of value, where it comes from. It's an opportunity for the taxpayer to let us know something about the property that we cannot ascertain from the exterior.
Right, very good.
The statute there is KSA 79-1460.
Okay, and in this case, the property value was reduced for the 2013 year.
No, it was
No.
not. It was reduced in a It was reduced at small claims for 14.
Oh, for 14.
Yes.
Well, then it would seem to me that it would carry through 15.
It did, but the
16.
13 value did not.
Oh, 13. Oh, that's the year before.
Right.
It stayed the same.
All right, further questions, comments?
I had a taxpayer get a hold of me yesterday morning, and I guess he's having an appeal this afternoon, and he wanted me to ask you something, so I guess now's a good time to ask you. I didn't even know you were going to be here today. But anyway, it's about the Lee building. And he said his commercial tax went up 47%. Now, this is just what I've been told. I haven't got to talk to you. And he's pretty concerned about that big of an increase in 1 year. And I guess I would be pretty concerned if I owned property and it went up.
When it wasn't doing anything.
And like Jim said, the property has no electricity. It can't have electricity. But yet it's probably a building, if buildings sat around that long and weren't used, the city would tear them down. But that is an historical value building. I believe, is it on the register of historic
I believe it
value?
is.
So, hopefully with the downtown thing, maybe that, I would hate to see that building tore down. I like old buildings. And, but anyway, does generally something jump up 47%?
What happens when we appraise properties, and what we have seen in the past is that when we have received an order from the Board of Tax Appeals lowering a value, we have rolled it, and at times we have maintained that value for more than a year. That was the case in the Lee building when the value was dropped down to $200,000. And I really don't particularly want to argue a taxpayer's case in front
I'm
of the
not arguing.
commission.
I'm just asking about
For
this.
clarification, for 2015, we removed that rolled value and let it go to cost. The 2015 value did go up. Today I'm having a hearing on the 2014 value, and it remains the same as it always has at 200.
Well, some of these old buildings, especially if they're not usable, I think there's some buildings that probably are an exception. And since there's a historical value of that building, and it's a building yet that can't be used until somebody approves something that can be used for, that it just seems like it would be reasonable to have a reasonable. I mean, I remember when they had that auction, I was thinking it sold for quite a bit less than 200,000. And if you had an auction today, I don't know if it'd bring 200,000. So,
Well, they'll have that opportunity this afternoon, I assume, so.
One thing I found very interesting, and Sherry educated me on this, and I'd like her to share this with you. I had a phone call from a gentleman that owns an apartment complex. He is the owner. And when they were surveying, or is that what it's called when you go out and canvass the area, when they went and knocked on one of the tenants' doors, they asked the person, "What do you pay for rent?" And the person didn't answer because she or he thought, "Why do they want to know what I pay for rent?" So immediately she told the landlord, and the landlord called me. He had put in a call to Sherry's office, but hadn't received a call back yet, so in the meantime he calls me. And I was not aware of them asking, "What do you pay for rent?" I understand that they come out and see if you've got a new addition, and if you've built a garage, and I understand that. But I didn't understand them asking, "What do you pay for rent?" So I was really taken aback by that as well. So I proceeded to call Sherry, and I said, "Why are they asking what you pay for rent? Is that a violation?" And she gave me an explanation, which I found very interesting.
Income
Don't want to
basis?
misquote you, so if you will share with the commissioners what you told me.
The income basis.
Yes,
Yeah.
income basis. When we're looking at confirming or adding to our database for income producing properties, there's several methods that we can use to get that information. We get the information from hearings, we get the information from the newspaper, we get the information from websites and mailings, and from actually talking to tenants and owners. Now, in the case of a rent survey with gosh, I think there's 180 different units of income-producing apartment properties. And this would include not just the large communities, but also houses that have been converted into 5 units or more. We find that a lot of times we don't get information from all of the owners, and we do a rent survey, and we go door to door. We haven't done that for several years, and probably not for the length of time that any of you have been in office. Certainly one has not been done. But we found in the hearing process our rents were probably on the low side in almost every case. So it obviously was time to take a look at that. Now, another thing we'll be doing is a warehouse survey. And it is part of the scope of work that the state has us do. We can ask when we're there doing recollect if it's a rented property or not, and if they're a tenant, what they pay. We typically don't do that with warehouses and retail, but it has been done in the past, and it's okay to do that. We're just contacting for information.
I found that interesting, but
Yep.
evidently, Commissioner, or Mr. Chair, you already knew that.
I have my appraiser's license.
Okay, that's fine.
I did pass that
The
test.
best way to get information is to talk to people.
And that's, if you and I sold our business, we'd sell it on the income basis. You know, what you're making and
Yep.
multiply it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you know, some people,
Hopefully
some renters, I just sold my rental, so I can't talk about it anymore, but one lady on one side rented for $325, the other one on the other side rented for $465, and I could get $550, but I've got good renters and I don't want to lose them. She's been there 13 years. So you're gonna do income on mine and say, and I guarantee you at the end of the year, I didn't make very much money. We've had dry weather, had to fix cracks in the basement. And you know what? There's not a lot of money in the rental business, and I sold it. I'm out of the rental business, and I'm happy.
May I clarify that for anything less than a 5-plex, we do not use the income approach to value. We use comparables.
Oh.
So if you're referring to a duplex, we don't utilize the income approach, and that's spelled out in state regulation.
Interesting.
And a lot of this, it's got nothing to do with what we think. It's what the state says. You know, it's the
Exactly.
state regulations.
Go ahead.
I will say also that market rent is what we are after. If they were going to rent the property today, rent the unit today, what would they ask for it? So that we can see what market rent is.
So do you use the same cap rate for all apartment rentals?
Yes, we do.
And that's derived by looking at the sales compared to income?
That's one way to find it. We do not have, we do not enjoy the frequency of sales of any type of commercial property like Johnson County, for example. But in the past, yes, we have looked at the income value, the net income derived by what they could sell it for to utilize a cap rate. We mostly look at the built-up method for cap rates and contact bankers and look at what you can typically, if you're a good investor, what you can get it for, what you can get your loan for, interest rate and time-wise. And we look at what you would be putting in of your own, and we look at what kind of investment you would hope to achieve and look at a built-up rate that way. We look at it in more than one way.
So what do you use for a cap rate on apartments now, do you know?
I believe right now it's 9.5, but I'm not certain, Dave. I'd have to look.
Well, I appreciate the job you do. It's a tough job, and I'd hate to have it. And I know it is really hard. But these are questions people want to know. And like we said, a lot of it, it's not your decision. It's a state's decision on a lot of it. And if we want to change things, we need to talk to our legislatures. One more question. I hate to ask this one, but how's the legislature coming on? We were hearing Jim and I down at, they were working on a $3 acre tax.
I just read that the other day myself and hadn't seen that in the Hoover reports yet. And that's what I depend on most of the time for my information. And it's a daily report, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day this time of year. I really don't, I'm not hearing that that's going to go anywhere, but I hesitate to predict what the legislature will do. There's still a lot of things on the table that they're looking at, and as I understand it, they're looking at the cost ramifications of different things before they make any decisions on the whole.
If they pass something like that, would the county have to collect that money for them?
I would assume so.
That just doesn't seem right to me. I don't like that idea at all.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think we would. I mean, we about have to, and
Yeah.
gosh,
I
that's
would,
a
I
scary
would like
thought.
to correct something or add to something, Dave, on the cap rate for apartments. We use a built-up rate, so the effective tax rate would be in addition to that cap rate. And the effective tax rate is a relationship of the assessed value to the mill levy, so that taxes are accounted for in the cap rate.
All right, thank you for the update. Appreciate it very much.
You're welcome.
Moving on to item number 6.
All right, I ask for approval of the county commission minutes for May the 12th, 2015.
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the county commission minutes of May the 12th, 2015 as presented.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Is there any other business that needs to come forward today or any announcements? The only another announcement I'll make is we will reconvene in exactly 1 hour upstairs at 1 o'clock. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn.
I second that.
All those in favor say aye.
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 We are adjourned. Thank you.